Chairman Stile, Ranking Member Morelli, and members of the committee, thank you for the invitation and opportunity to testify before you today. My name is Caitlin Sutherland, and I'm the Executive Director of Americans for Public Trust, a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to restoring trust in government by holding politicians and political groups accountable. Since our founding in 2020, APT has devoted extensive resources to uncovering, mapping, and publicizing outside money and influence in politics and policy. Americans should have every confidence that their elections are free from foreign interference and influence. But unfortunately, a significant source of foreign cash is flowing into politics from a Swiss billionaire named Hans-Jörg Wyss. Multiple press outlets have confirmed Mr. Wyss is a foreign national. But don't just take their word for it. Listen to what Mr. Wyss has said about the matter. In 2011, Mr. Wyss told a Swiss newspaper that he, quote, never felt the need to become an American, end quote. He claimed he found the process too, quote, complicated, end quote, and instead preferred to call himself, quote, a spiritual dual citizen, end quote. Despite Mr. Wyss's disinterest in becoming an American citizen, he made it a personal goal to influence American politics. According to a biography written by his own sister, Mr. Wyss's goal is to, quote, reinterpret the American Constitution in the light of progressive politics, end quote. So how is Mr. Wyss, who is not a US citizen and therefore prohibited from directly and indirectly influencing our elections, doing just that? Well, first in the 90s and early aughts, he, seemingly illegally, gave more than $100,000 directly to candidates and committees. But Mr. Wyss's direct giving pales into comparison to his current and preferred method of influencing our politics, his nonprofits. Mr. Wyss uses his two nonprofits, the Wyss Foundation, a 501c3, and the Burger Action Fund, formerly called the Wyss Action Fund, a 501c4, to fund liberal groups across the nation. He has used these two nonprofits to pump almost $500 million into the US political system. In his biography, Mr. Wyss's sister explicitly detailed his ability to, quote, exert an influence on American domestic politics through his foundations, end quote. If this sounds like a staggering amount of money from a reclusive foreign billionaire and organizations that are far from being household names, that's because it's all by design. Again, while speaking to foreign media, Mr. Wyss admitted that he was fighting laws in Arizona that, quote, give police too many rights, end quote, working to nominate progressive federal judges and funding abortion clinics. But the catch? He also bragged that his, quote, name never appears, end quote, linked to his efforts. In fact, the Associated Press described Burger Action Fund as, quote, a nondescript name for a group with a rather specific purpose, steering the wealth of Hans-Jörg Wyss, a Swiss billionaire, into the world of American politics and policy. So how exactly, in his own words, does he exert an influence? According to the New York Times, Mr. Wyss's, quote, political activism is channeled through a daisy chain of opaque organizations that mask the ultimate recipients of his money. The most opaque of those organizations is a little-known group called the 1630 Fund, which, according to Bloomberg, serves as, quote, a clearinghouse for the left, end quote, and has also received $243 million from Mr. Wyss. 1630 Fund bankrolls efforts to elevate President Biden's agenda, funds Supreme Court nomination fights, invests in massive voter turnout operations, engages in issue advocacy campaigns against vulnerable Republican senators and representatives, and has funneled nearly $100 million and counting into state ballot issues across 25 states. That's right, the same group that has received around $250 million from a foreign national turns around and spends it on GOTV, voter registration, super PACs, and ballot issues. These foreign influence loopholes must be closed. Foreign nationals are already barred from donating to candidates directly, so why should all these vehicles that influence our elections be any different? American elections should be for American citizens. Stopping foreign nationals, whether they be a reclusive Swiss billionaire or a communist dictator, from funding US policy fights is a simple step to take. In his 1796 farewell address, George Washington cautioned that, quote, foreign influence is one of the most baneful foes of Republican government, end quote. Over 200 years later, that sentiment remains true. Thank you.